Well, thank you. I'm certainly very excited to be presenting on this topic, as we're all well aware. There's certainly a bit of a transformation going on in terms of digital marketing law firms. It's causing, I find that it's causing friction, chaos, but it's also yielding opportunities for us to all act on. So I'm certainly excited, and I'm glad that all of you could join. We seem to have a full house. Seems to be a very popular topic, it seems. Just to quickly introduce myself, I'm a partner at eDynamic, and I spent over a decade working with leading B2B organizations and really helping them think about how to leverage digital marketing and the underlying technology to optimize experiences, engage with clients and customers. So it's been interesting trying to see how organizations in high-tech, financial services, and then professional services leverage digital marketing and technology to engage with clients. So what we're here to really talk about is this transformation that's going on. We term this as digital engagement, is the future of digital marketing, and I'll touch on that in the slides that follow. But what I hope to provide in this presentation is really a broad perspective that will help you to then take some thoughts away and for you to explore further in terms of how you can leverage some of the topics that I covered today, perhaps related to technology, the website, content strategy, data, how to generate demand in your own context. So we only have about 40 to 45 minutes, so we'll certainly cover a wide variety of things. Perhaps the depth may not be as much, but the idea is to give you that broad perspective. So quickly introduce you to eDynamic. We're a digital agency. What we really focus on is really bringing strategy, experience, and digital technology to help marketers engage with clients. And this is across channels, whether it's web, mobile, email. Our focus is to bring those contextual, personalized experiences to your end clients so that you're able to engage with them, convert them, and ultimately drive ROI. And we have a variety of capabilities that focus all across strategy, experience, and technology that help marketers engage with their audiences. So let's get into it. So where is digital marketing headed in law firms? But before we actually go down that path or really thinking about where it's headed, let's really talk about where we are today in terms of the changing times that we're all seeing. We're seeing that spray and pray marketing is not working. So the good old days of email blasts are not yielding results. Market conditions are changing. This competition is more immense than ever. The downturn brought some interesting dynamics in the marketplace where competition, the way firms engage with their clients and the competition that was trying to actually go after the client base, it changed the dynamics of how you engaged with your clients and what marketers needed to do to accomplish their objectives. We see that there are global growth opportunities, and marketers need to be able to enable these opportunities in various markets by offering localized websites in some instances, or create thought leadership so that your firms are positioned well to succeed. We find that business development and the sales process is evolving. There's this whole new notion of a new type of buyer who's well informed, and they're driving the buying process, and we'll talk about that today. But there's certainly an evolving situation when it comes to business development and the sales process, and marketing certainly needs to play a key role in influencing the buyer, and we'll certainly talk about that today as well. Social media is really transforming how clients and organizations engage. You're closer than ever with your prospects and clients, and it is interesting how you can use social media to engage with talent. Revenue responsibility is something that's upcoming. In B2B, it's a common practice. So when we work with marketers in different industries, we see it as a common practice. But what we're finding is that in law firms as well, the conversation started. The conversation of how marketing can attribute to revenue has started. And that's going to place different types of pressures on marketing. So marketing needs to be ready to take on revenue responsibility. So times are certainly changing, and digital marketing and law firms have to adapt to its changing times. And when we talk within firms about what they're doing to meet their objectives at these changing times, there are different types of challenges that business development, marketing, HR, and talent are facing. So business development is worried about how to engage with clients based on segmentation. How do they engage with, if they're small to mid-market opportunities, the manual efforts of, targeting a few set of clients doesn't really work. HR is worried about how do they market staffing opportunities, how do they get talent into the organization, how do they engage with talent across a period of time. Marketing is having issues with getting insight into clients and their needs. Marketing the firm's practices and services to existing clients is always a challenge, and the spray and pray approaches are no longer working. So each department within a law firm, when the way they leverage digital marketing is leading to some challenges. And what we're finding is that there's this curve that we've defined, what we call the digital marketing curve in law firms. What we're finding is that organizations are at different stages of this curve. So, for example, in between 95 to 2005, quite a few of your websites and your marketing assets were IT-led. IT owned them, and essentially you played a back seat to actually engaging with your customers because IT owned all your assets. Between 2005 to now, what we're finding is that marketing is driving informational marketing, which is a lot of it is spray and pray. So you send out a lot of material. It's quite static in how you engage with the audience. We find that content is getting interactive, but it's limited. There is some intelligence, but generally what we see is your marketing assets, your website, email, CRM, they're disconnected, so you're not getting a single view of the customer. And where we feel organizations need to move to is this whole notion of digital engagement. Digital engagement is personal, it's contextual, it is social. You deal with your customers and with your clients where they want to deal with you. So, for example, if they want assets on mobile devices, on websites, on email, you give them what they need based on their terms. Measurement is a key part of digital engagement, and there's a focus on ROI, and all this leads to predictive marketing. So once you are personal and contextual to your clients, once you are measuring how you engage with clients, you can really move down the path of predictive marketing and focus on ROI. So we feel that digital marketing in law firms is really moving towards digital engagement. Organizations really need to think about where they are and how to actually get to digital engagement. And that roadmap is going to be important in how you execute digital marketing and the success you reap from your marketing efforts over a period of time. So at this point, I'd love to learn about where you are with digital marketing in your law firms. I'd love to know, if you are at one stage or another. So we're going to throw up a poll. And I'm really interested to learn the participants where they are in this digital maturity curve that we've created. So there's a poll that you'll see up here. Please go ahead and just answer the poll question. It'll be interesting to hear where people are. All right, so the results are in. I must say I'm not surprised. Well, you should be proud that very few of you are IT-led still. We find that most of you are, in sort of this informational-driven marketing where It's one-way communication out to the audience but there's a lack of personal and contextual engagement. And a few of you are starting to move down the path of digital engagement. That's good to know. So those of you who are currently in the path of informational marketing, you need to figure out how do you get to digital engagement. And those of you who are already getting to digital engagement, you need to think about how do you actually sustain it and actually how do you make it more successful. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about where you are and how do you get to digital engagement. But let's start to define what is digital engagement in a little more detail. I'm going to read this out verbatim. This is a definition that we put together. Digital engagement is integrated multi-channel marketing which creates personalized dialogue with clients that drives conversion and measurable ROI. So it has to be multi-channel, it has to be personalized, it has to look towards conversion, and ultimately it has to be measurable and drive ROI. And that is what we define as digital engagement. It is when your client on your website gets the right message at the right time, when they receive emails, they're not being blasted with all kinds of communication that they feel it's one-to-one based on their context and needs. Where you have a single view of client behavior across email, web, and mobile, where you can get a holistic view and a single view of the client to understand their context, and you can target them based on their behavior and segmentation, where you are engaging socially with your talent and with clients, and you're measuring all of this engagement under a single view, if you will. And where information is findable, where clients go to your website and they're easily able to find the information they seek, and they're not looking for information and they don't struggle with finding layers and layers of content and not getting the information they need. And it's ultimately supported by capabilities and integrated technologies and processes. That is what digital engagement is, and that is where you need to get to. So the question is, how do you get there? How do you get to digital engagement? So if you're doing informational marketing today, if you are in that spray and pray mode, how do you get to digital engagement? Well, to get there, it has to start with a strategy. You need a roadmap to success. If you do not have a roadmap, then essentially you're ad hoc and you're trying things, and the opportunity of you to succeed is going to be not as great because you're not really executing a strategy. So for you to actually execute a strategy, you need to conduct market research, and don't just look at legal. Consider industries beyond legal. When you consider professional services, what's happening in IT consulting is becoming very relevant to you. And then if you consider B2B marketing overall, there's a lot of great work that's taking place, and we urge you to consider that. So don't be limited to just the legal space, because legal, for all intents and purposes, is lagging when it comes to true B2B marketing and what's happening in the marketplace, at least what we see. Identify the capabilities that you need. Create a roadmap that is cohesive and which you can execute with the bandwidth that you have over time. And select the appropriate digital marketing technology. Really think about that blueprint, because your technology needs to be connected for you to be able to actually execute that roadmap. So what we at eDynamic do is we use a tool, and I'd be happy to send this process across to you if you're interested. But it's a 4-step process. Starts with understanding your needs, defining capabilities, creating a blueprint, and creating a roadmap. So if you follow a process such as this or similar to this, you can come up with a roadmap in a period of a month to 3 months, and actually have a plan that you can start to execute toward. And then when you start to think about the goals that you need to accomplish, quite often, when we engage with clients, we look at basic goals which are quite common. You're trying to build stronger relationships with your clients. You're trying to grow the business by acquiring new clients. You're trying to influence not only clients but the community, and you're trying to attract quality talent. And against that, you need to build your strategy. So, for example, you want to offer personalized contextual experiences to your clients so that you have engaging, meaningful conversations with them. You want to execute demand generation processes. You want to engage with clients through social media. So once you pull together a strategy against your goals, then you can start to define the tactics. How do you empower marketing to create, publish, and manage content across channels? How do you implement cross-channel analytics? How do you employ social media? So once you have a framework to work against, very quickly you can identify the opportunities that can ultimately inform that roadmap, which will lead you to success. Again, this framework is available, and I'd be happy to share that with you. And perhaps you can use this within your law firm in a manner where you can have discussions around various strategies and tactics that you can employ and create a roadmap that's sustainable and will help you accomplish your goals. So let's talk a little bit about digital technology that drives engagement. So through the course of the rest of the webinar, we're going to be touching on your website, demand generation, etc. And underneath it all is digital technology that is driving success. But what is the best thing that technology can do for marketers? What is the single best thing they can do for you? Really, it just needs to get out of your way. The issue today is that technology is obtrusive. It's not empowering marketers to accomplish their objectives. They have to work with IT to do simple things. Technology needs to be seamless. It needs to be unobtrusive. It needs to be easy to use. But that's not where we are today. When we talk to a lot of our clients and folks in the industry, what we find is that digital marketing technology is siloed. So we find that organizations will implement their website, the CRM, email, social tools, all in silos, and they end up with these islands of data. And when you have these islands of data, then if you have to get measurement, you're trying to dig through all this data, trying to prepare reports, and you're not really driving insight, you're just simply collecting data, and it's not something that will drive success. So what we're finding is that legal-specific technology is dated. It is quite often when we work with our clients, we're finding the technology that they're using to drive the website, email, etc. Quite often that's the challenge. It's simply not working. It won't help you accomplish your goals. So you need to consider the latest and greatest technologies in the marketplace. And the issue is that there's just a plethora of technologies available. So from a few years ago to now, you will find that technologies that are available under the hood of your digital marketing platform is enormous. You've got SEO tools to mobile marketing tools to targeting tools, CMS tools. They're tools for just about everything, and this thing is just exploding, and that's a challenge. So what we guide our clients to do is to focus really on digital marketing, and we focus really on the core tools. And these core tools quite often come down to the CMS tool, analytics, on-site search, email automation, CRM. So these are core tools that marketers need to succeed. Without these tools, you may not be able to do some of the things that you want to accomplish. So as we go through the rest of the webinar, we're going to be talking about some of these tools in conjunction with the capabilities that you typically would have. And when you consider these tools, what's important is that it's all integrated. It all needs to come together. And if it is not, you will struggle. So for example, if you have CMS and marketing automation, or as it's typically called email automation, and they're all in silos, they're not really engaging with the prospect in a coordinated, consistent manner. If you want to get a single view of the customer or the client, you need to ensure that at least your CMS, email automation, and CRM tools are talking to each other. And if you can accomplish that, you will go a long way in engaging with your clients in a meaningful manner and ensure that all your data is getting centralized. And once you're able to do that, you'll get measurement and reporting that will give you real insight towards how you're performing against your goals and what your clients are really looking for. So let's talk a little bit about the website. And a website is a key tool. It's a key asset of your digital strategy. And you have to ensure that your website is is an asset that drives engagement as opposed to being just a static aspect of your digital marketing strategy. So an engaging website would have several attributes. It would be, the experience would be very engaging. It needs to be multi-device now. We've all heard about mobile and the growth of mobile and tablets and so on. Multi-language considerations are important for law firms who are in multiple geographies. Content needs to be intelligent, so it needs to be targeted. Personalization is becoming important, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the next few slides. And then essentially you need to ensure that it's easy to find content and information, and SEO drives demand for your website. So when you consider multi-device experiences on your site, it's very important to consider the mobile and tablet experience in a manner that you're offering relevant experiences on relevant devices. For example, for your mobile site, you need not offer all the information that's available on your website. You can offer relevant information such as office locations, information that people would need on mobile devices. What we're seeing also as a trend is that this whole notion of building an app for everything is perhaps going away. Apps are needed for a particular reason, but quite often your clients may not download an app from your firm. So you may need to create sites which are mobile specific, or they're responsive and driven by HTML5, for example, that cater to specific devices. And if you can do that, your single CMS will drive your website, your mobile site, and your tablet experience. And that's not too difficult to do now. So you don't have to go about creating separate apps for your tablet experience, for mobile experience. You can all do it together through a single CMS. Language considerations are quite important. Your CMS capabilities will allow you to offer localization, the ability to provide regional content all out of one box, and will drive an experience which is specific to a region. So thinking about multi-language consideration is quite important as you think about how you move from having a site which is perhaps essentially one size fits all for all geographies to a more specific regional site. Another important aspect when you think about your website is personalization. And personalization has become a buzzword, and quite often people quite don't understand the context of it when it comes to online marketing. And then that's fair enough because the word gets used in many different contexts. So personalization is nothing but an effort to differentiate yourself and ensuring that your audiences are getting relevant content that's relevant and based on their needs. And it allows you to really interact with your prospects and clients on a personal level. And they get content which is specific to their needs and is driven through email and web and is driven in a manner that based on their behavior you can target them with content. And this technology is now available. It allows you to send targeted email, for example, to a certain segment, or when someone visits your website, for them to get information based on their context, or what we call the digital footprint. And it really matters. It matters because if you're not engaging with your clients, you will lose them. We find that in many cases, sites are so static and they're full of content, and clients don't get what they're looking for, and it's a frustrating experience, and they leave. So that may not be necessarily the reason why they don't engage with your firm, but if they get the information they're looking for as they are considering your firm, it will only improve your chances of winning. And what we find, Serious Decisions is an authority in this space of B2B digital marketing, and they say the average buyer, 70% of them walk away from the buying process before speaking to the rep. So whether it's a partner in your law firm, business development, if you're not able to engage with the prospect and give them the information they need, they will leave. So if you're able to drive these dynamic experiences, you will engage with these clients. You will engage with prospects. And here's an example of what we did with one of our clients, where if you were to navigate to their site, you would view certain content on their page, we would start to understand who you are, what your context is, what geography you're coming from, and segment you so that the next time you come to the website, we give you, for example, in this case, we would offer content on the banner which is relevant to you and in what you're looking for. So it's relevant, and this type of an experience is really engaging. It differentiates you because your audiences are getting that one-to-one conversation, the one-to-one messaging, which will ensure they're engaged, and it leads to conversion. Here's another example where for an existing client, if you're able to identify you're an existing client, essentially next time you come to the website, you would be offered a login and relevant information. So these are examples of how organizations can drive personalization, offer relevant content, and make the experience enriching for the user. The importance of search cannot be overstated, and I'm talking about on-site search, not search engine optimization. Search is quite important in your context because law firms have a lot of content, and there's complex taxonomy, if you will, which makes search essential. So think about capabilities such as type ahead, guided navigation, faceted search that would drive engagement on your website. So the way to power that is having an effective CMS or a content management system. It is core to your website, it's core to the digital experience, and in a lot of ways it's a core marketing asset that if leveraged well can really bring digital engagement. So contemporary CMS now is not about content management. In fact, the word content management should be reconsidered because it's experience management. What you're doing is not simply updating the content on the site, you're managing the experience. You're managing content, you're driving personalization. There's decisioning within the tool to ensure that the right content is given to the right person. And these experiences need to be multi-device, and all of that needs to be driven through a CMS. And if you're not using these tools, then you're limited in how successful you can be. And there are extended capabilities coming now. So some CMSs offer analytics right out of the box. Digital assets are managed directly from the CMS. There's social tools available so you can publish out to social media all from a single CMS. Email automation is also getting integrated into the CMS. So the contemporary tools which are out there can really help you accomplish some incredible things in terms of digital engagement. So some of the trends that we're seeing in the marketplace with CMS include, we're seeing that law firms are starting to now really look outside the legal specific CMSs. There are tools out there that are done really well, but law firms are now starting to really ask the question, are they ideal for them to engage with clients and really get to digital engagement? Can they offer personalized content? Is analytics built in? Is it easy to manage the experience? Do you still have to go to IT or the vendor? So it's really important to ask yourself which route to take. There are benefits also of picking the legal specific CMSs. They offer specific capabilities, which law firms quite often need. But you need to really ask yourself which is the route that you want to take, because there are implications in what you'll be able to accomplish. But also finding that the CMS capabilities in terms of managing content is becoming commoditized. And vendors are starting to look down the path and building email automation capabilities, analytics, and digital asset management as part of these tools. And the focus is now all about customer engagement. So when you meet these vendors, they will talk about personalization and how to get the right content to the right segment and how to create that experience, which is quite effective. And some of the considerations that you should be looking into when you select a CMS is, again, as I mentioned earlier, do not focus on legal-specific CMSs only. Consider those that consider contemporary CMSs. Ask the vendors about the product roadmap. Where is the product headed? How will it deal with things like multi-device experiences, social media? And some of the features that you should be looking for out of the box include, the value, and essentially, the cost, obviously, but how easy is it to use for digital marketers? Because ultimately, it's a tool that should be easy to use for you to be able to publish content and manage the experience. How can you actually store content within the tool? How would you deal with multi-device experiences? How would you accomplish personalization? How would you do testing, A/B and MBT? Social capabilities within the tool. But more importantly, how would you actually integrate everything together with outside capabilities such as email and CRM? So these are some key considerations that you should think of when you really think about your CMS. And consider what analysts have to say. Gartner and Forrester do a lot of research to assess how these products are performing in the marketplace. So we find that tools to Sitecore, Electron, the Hubbard One platform, Tridian, Adobe, SharePoint are market leaders, and they provide some exceptional capabilities. So it would be interesting for you to look at these contemporary and legal-specific CMSs for you to actually see what would fit your budget and goals. So that was all about the website, the technology, and some of the capabilities the websites need to offer to accomplish digital engagement. Let's talk about content, because content is not only part of the website, it's a strategy all into itself, and it needs to be catered to in a manner that you can leverage it across your website, email, mobile, and essentially engage with clients and prospects and talent in a manner that is suitable for them. Generally, there's a challenge with content. We hear marketers complain about the fact that producing content that really engaging with prospects and customers is tough. It's not easy. It's a key part of the focus, and what we find is that a lot of energy and budget is being spent on this area. So producing great content, if you're struggling with it, it's just not your problem, it's a problem that we see across the industry. It's not easy to create content that's relevant. So when you think about the content strategy for your website, focus on the buyer's needs, focus on the client's needs. Consider mapping this whole notion of the buying life cycle. Keep copy minimal, it should be simplistic, but focus should be really on thought leadership content and how it would actually drive leads and engagement on the website, because ultimately you're selling expertise and thought leadership conveys that expertise. Ensure your content is findable. As I said earlier, search is such an important aspect of your site. Leverage interactive content like videos. For example, Alan Atkins, they do a great job with videos on their site. You can visit their site and see the videos that they keep refreshing on their site. But video content is becoming quite important. And within the context of a law firm, your content relationships need to be structured in a manner that can be essentially portrayed or painted on the site in an easy to use manner. So attorney bios, cases, and thought leadership should all be linked together in whatever tool you choose, so that ultimately when you display it on the site, it's easy to structure, it's easy to link, and it's easy to actually produce on your site. And also, if you think about your content strategy, think about this notion of the buying life cycle. So if you want to come up with a content strategy which is relevant, think about how your buyers buy, how your clients actually make decisions on your firm. What process do they go through to actually make a decision on working with you? So in a B2B sales life cycle, quite often a buyer would understand that there's a need. They would search for appropriate options. They would evaluate options. And this is across various segments, and they have criteria of moving across one stage to another. As a marketer, you need to fulfill their needs across each stage and help them move along so that ultimately they would make that purchase decision. And if you were to think about mapping your content against this buying life cycle, I think it will transform the way you offer content to your clients, making it relevant, personal, and actually engaging. So if you were to map your content capabilities against the buying life cycle, you would come up with a content structure which you can leverage on your website, on email, and it would be very fulfilling for anyone who engages with you to actually get the content that they need, because it will be tailored to their needs. So in context of the content strategy, let's talk about demand generation. Demand generation is an important aspect of marketing, where you're trying to generate leads, you're trying to generate opportunities, and ultimately clients and revenue for your firm. And in context of that, we talked about the new informed buyer. Clients are more informed than ever. In fact, a report recently suggested that 95% of B2B purchasers, they said that they were influenced by firms that provided them with ample content to navigate through each stage of this buying process. So it's very important to understand that the buyer is changing. They have information available to them through Web 2.0, social media that allow them to make informed decisions around who to engage with, which firm to work with. So this buyer is shifting, and that's one of the key reasons why digital marketing needs to shift in law firms as well. So as this new buyer shifts, there's this whole buying life cycle that they follow, and quite often it doesn't align with your sales process. The buying process is evolving, but how organizations actually target prospects and clients has remained the same, and that creates a gap. The gap is where you do not get the opportunities that you're looking for. Your sales efforts or your digital marketing efforts are not succeeding. You're not offering leads which are sales worthy to clients. It's because of this gap, and you need to find ways to wrap your digital marketing efforts really around this buying process that we spoke of, and offer information which is relevant to them so that they can make that informed decision. And if you think about this notion of a buying life cycle that we looked at a few slides earlier, again, there are these stages that various segments of buyers would go through to actually make a decision. Now, every firm will have its own notion of a buying life cycle. It's important that you map the stages in the buying life cycle, and if you're able to do that, I think you'll succeed in really thinking about how buyers buy, and then how you need to create assets, email automation, email marketing, the website to wrap around this buying life cycle to make the experience meaningful. So as you think about the buying life cycle, you think about the acquisition strategy, quite often what we see law firms really focus on is the website, which is conversion. So as you think about the acquisition process, you're driving traffic, you're converting prospects into leads, you're nurturing them, and you ultimately get them to a point where they're ready to buy, and they deal with partners and business development in the law firm. What we find is that the whole nurturing process seems to be missing in law firms, where thought leadership marketing is not really being leveraged to target prospects and clients to nurture them, to get them ready to buy. So while the website remains to be a focus, but there's really a limited use of nurturing in law firms. And the importance of nurturing is very evident, because 70% of leads in B2B marketing overall, as they move from consideration to commitment, it is important that you influence them, because they're not ready to buy. They are long-term, and they're not ready to buy from you now, but they probably may buy from you at a certain point in time. If you're not nurturing them, then there's a big hole in how you actually engage with these prospects. So as you think about defining your buying process and how various segments buy from you, you can start to think about how you would create awareness, how you would create relationships with clients and prospects, and then how you would drive prospects to become clients. The Bloom Group has put together this whole notion of buyer process and the seller process, which we encourage that you look at. They've got excellent material on their site, which really talks about this process. And once you define your buying process, as we looked at earlier, you can define how you drive content, how you actually execute initiatives. So at what stage would a viral video versus customer reviews or client reviews or communities be more relevant to you? So you can map that all against various stages of the buying life cycle. So to execute on the buying life cycle, email automation is very important. It drives that one-to-one dialogue with your prospects, and that's where you need to get to. Spray and pray, and in the days of actually essentially just blasting emails and hoping that people would read content, those days are gone. So batch email marketing is something that we encourage you to move away from. Really think about multi-step email campaigns which are thought leadership driven and offer segmented, targeted communication to various prospects and clients of yours. And this is what's going to drive that meaningful engagement when your clients receive communication which is relevant to them, as opposed to all kinds of communication which is not really based on their behavior or interest. It starts to change the paradigm of how you engage with your prospects. There's various capabilities such as opening and closing of emails and being able to see who visited a specific web page, and all of this information can help you make decisions on how you optimize and test your campaigns. We encourage you also to start to think about lead scoring. Once you start to score leads and opportunities and you start to assign numbers to them, you can really assess at what point can leads be handed over to sales, to partners to actually engage with prospects. You don't want to be in a position where you're simply handing them opportunities which may not be relevant, they may not be ready. So you need to be in a situation where you score leads and opportunities and you ensure that you offer leads which are sales ready. And email automation can help you accomplish that. So if you're doing events, for example, you could actually execute campaigns which are event specific. You could have landing pages and reminder campaigns similar to what you would have received when you attended this webinar. And it's all driven through email automation. Ultimately, you will drive sales-ready leads driven through forms and lead nurturing campaigns, which will ensure that your firm is prioritizing the time on the right opportunities as opposed to just essentially anything that comes your way. And when you consider various vendors in this space, there's a lot that's happened in the last 2 to 3 years in the email automation space. So while there are tools which are popular in the legal space, there are tools outside of the legal space which have done quite well, including Eloqua, Marketo, Silverpop, and obviously Concept is very popular with law firms. But think about what tools would allow you to do segmented email marketing. How would you manage contacts? How would you manage leads? How would you gather behavior of each lead so that you can actually do segmented marketing? And how would you actually execute campaigns? Besides that, if you're thinking about driving demand, SEO is all important. We find that law firms generally are doing a good job with SEO, but it seems to be done in a very ad hoc manner where SEO is just done across the board. So you need to think about your SEO strategy and need to think about social and blogs and how it all links into you driving content and relevant traffic to your website. So we just finished talking about driving demand, driving leads and opportunities. But all of this leads to a lot of data. A lot of it leads to analytics, and you need to be able to measure it to drive intelligence. And that is critical for any law firm. And we find that getting the single view of your client and getting this one consolidated view of how they're engaging with you across email, web, mobile, various channels is most important. And this seems to be a key challenge of online marketers. It's in fact one of the critical challenges that we consistently hear about is how do you get the single view of a client and how do we integrate it so that the CRM system, for example, can see how clients are engaging with us. If you're able to do that, you start to really are able to not only make decisions on how you drive integrated marketing, but you're able to then start to become more predictive in how you engage with your clients. And here's an example of getting that single view of the client. Here's an example of a CRM system and the data that's integrated into it. For example, for a particular lead or an account, how much time they spent on your website, how many emails have they opened. Now, if you're able to get this insight in the hands of your business development and the hands of the partners, when they actually pick up the phone and call someone, it's a different type of experience because you have really understood what their context is, what their behavior is, and what they're really looking for. So this is what multi-channel and cross-channel analytics can really help you accomplish. If you integrate it with your CRM and you're able to drive that, you're able to actually capture behavior and get that insight into the hands of the of your sales or your business development and business development team and partners, they will have meaningful conversations with your clients. So the days of pulling reports across channels and simply creating analytics reports that just justify marketers doing their jobs and not being connected with the CRM, those days are gone. There are tools available that can integrate right into the CRM and email automation through analytics the behavior and the engagement of clients and prospects. And if you are able to do this, it's really powerful in how you can engage with clients and prospects. So some of the vendors that, when you think about analytics, there are some critical vendors that we all know of: Omniture, Google Analytics, Core Metrics. But really think about cross-channel analytics. When you think about your analytics strategy, web, email, mobile, it should all the data should be flowing through one system. And dashboarding and reporting should be driven off of that. So once you integrate all your tools, you will find that analytics will get integrated across all channels, and you will get that single view of your clients. Social media continues to be a hot topic when it comes to digital marketing, and there's a lot of thought around, well, is Facebook relevant or not? What do we do with LinkedIn? What do we do with videos? What should be our Twitter strategy? And it's very relevant because your clients are using social media on a personal level, and you need to address it. So we find is that while there is a use of social media in law firms, but truly leveraging social media in a meaningful manner is not really taking place. So what we find is that very few firms actually have blogs. Very few firms are actually using Twitter and LinkedIn in a meaningful manner. Even the ones who are using LinkedIn, they simply have profiles, but the profiles are not rich enough. They're not linked back to the website. So we're finding that there's a huge opportunity in leveraging social media the right way. So social media cannot be ignored because it's a way of life today, and we need to ensure that we address it in a manner that not only caters to the needs of the firm, but ensure that it caters to the needs of the clients. So when you think about social media, there's this whole ecosystem at play, and I think what I generally find is that marketers get confused about how to leverage social media because there's so much. There's Twitter, there's LinkedIn, there's Facebook. So you can think about using the social ecosystem in this owned, managed, and participating manner. So owned capabilities could be your own internal communities. So for example, if you create a career website which is more community driven, where your talent can come in and have a two-way communication with your firm, that will be an internal community. That could be an external community. An internal community could be an intranet. However, that should then start to link with participating capabilities or platforms, if you will, out such as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, where you could manage your own assets there, but you could also participate in conversations. So when you think about your strategy, it should be thought through in a manner of an own, managed, and participating manner, so that you're thinking not only about participating in Twitter, LinkedIn, etc., but also about how you can use your own assets, such as your website, and convert them into things like owned communities. So when you think about executing a social media strategy, you really need to think about your reputation. A lot of it starts with reputation management. So when it comes to social media, we advocate you use it to build communities for brand positioning and customer engagement. You need to become newsworthy in Twitter. You need to leverage the LinkedIn profile and discussions and posts and blogs on LinkedIn to converse with the community. But also internally, you have to think about communities that will drive employee engagement. You can use social media to really connect with talent. I think it's a great way to leverage, or if you're thinking about starting with social media, think about how you can leverage talent, leverage it to connect with talent. And ultimately, all of it has to be connected. It has to be connected with your website, with email, so you've got to make sure that the linkage between your website and the platforms like LinkedIn or Twitter, it's all connected with your website. Ultimately, that is what's going to ensure that your clients and people who actually go from your social media assets to your website, they find that it's a connected experience. Great. So we covered quite a few topics today, all the way from where digital marketing is headed from this informational and IT-led to digital engagement, the need for a roadmap, the need for strategy. We discussed the various capabilities your website would need to actually drive digital engagement, the need for demand generation, and really thinking about that buying life cycle of your clients. We also talked about the importance of data and analytics. And finally, social media, which we, as we all know, is a hot topic. So at this point, I'm going to open the floor for questions, if there are any.
We do have a lot of questions coming up, but since we're running out of time, I don't think we'll be able to cover all the questions, but let's try and cover as many as time permits, and we'll get back to the unanswered questions via email after the webinar is over. So the first question is, which are the best tools for email marketing?
Well, email marketing has moved from true email marketing to marketing automation, and what I mean by that is you need to be able to segment your target base. You need to be able to send targeted communication. You need to be able to track behavior, and then you need to be able to automate the process of nurturing. So that process is what's generally called demand generation, marketing automation, email automation. There's various terms for it. There are various tools in the marketplace. The ones that we see that are quite successful at accomplishing these tasks include Eloqua, Silverpop, Marketo. They are tools that are staff-enabled, so they're available on the cloud, and you can use them on an as-needed basis to drive email automation at your firms.
The next question is, we're going to implement a new website. Do you recommend that we start with creating a digital strategy and then do the website, or is it okay to directly jump into the website design?
I think having a digital strategy that links your marketing objectives with capabilities against a roadmap, which is research-driven, is quite important, because you don't want to think about your website in isolation. So your website is an asset that exists in this ecosystem, which may include email, CRM, communities, and so on. And you have to ensure it's all connected so that ultimately you can get that cross-channel analytics going. You can get that single view of the customer or the client. So what we recommend is think about the strategy first. Think about how these tools will all exist in the ecosystem, create a roadmap, and then actually start the process of thinking about your website.
There's another question which says, what's an average time between engaging in a strategy and having enough good data to be able to put that in a sales funnel?
It's a great point. I think from the very beginning, you should have some data. You always have data, whether it's analytics on your site. It may not be ideal. It might be siloed, but you have data. So if you can pull together data, drive some level of insight, and actually start to improve the process of how you gather, store, and drive insight, that'll start to move down the path of actually driving your strategy. But the strategy can be driven off of market data, your internal hypotheses, also based on your internal data. So quite a few things would inform that strategy process, and it's not just the data. Data is one aspect of it, and if your data is dirty, is not very insightful, then you have to rely on your internal hypotheses, on benchmarks in the space, and actually start to execute on it till you start to get that data so that you can start to optimize and iterate.
Thank you. The next question is, which are the best platforms for personalization? Do you have recommendations?
Yeah, so what we see happening in the marketplace is that these personalization tools are now embedded in contemporary CMSs. So a CMS, for example, like Sitecore or DayCQ or Adobe's tool CQ, they offer personalization right out of the box. You could build decisions which, based on analytics, can drive experiences which are relevant for that particular segment or prospect or client.
I'll take up just one last question. We're thinking about redoing the lead generation program. Can you provide your perspective on how to get going?
Well, I would encourage you to think about the buying life cycle. I would encourage you to sit with sales, with the partners, with business development, and actually map out how your buyers buy. what decisions do they make at various points, various segments. And this does not need to be perfect, but once you start to map that out, a few things will happen. One, you'll have alignment between various teams. Two, you'll have a perspective on how do you need to move your buyers across the buying life cycle. So once you actually map out the buying life cycle, then you can think about the appropriate tool to actually execute against the buying life cycle. And when you build campaigns, quite often those campaigns will be linked to wrap around that buying life cycle. So for prospects and existing clients, you might have different campaigns, if you will. And the way you execute those campaigns to these email automation tools that wrap around the buying life cycle quite often will determine the success of your campaign efforts. So think about the buying life cycle first, then select a tool which is most appropriate for you against the buying life cycle, and ensure that it offers capabilities such as segmented marketing, trigger-based marketing, and nurturing capabilities.
Great. So we do have a few questions, but I think since we're running out of time, we'll get back to those questions via email after the webinar is over.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to attend this webinar. The topic is pretty broad, so I tried to do the best to cover as many items as I could, but feel free to reach out to me if you need any of the assets that were covered in the webinar, or if you'd like to discuss any of the topics that we brought up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you everyone for attending our webinar. We hope you found it informative. The webcast will be available on our website within the next 3 business days, and we'll also be sharing it with you via email. And please feel free to reach out to us at contact@edynamic.net for any questions you may have. Thank you once again.
The organizer has ended the